Finals, they get underway Thursday night. It'll be the Warriors against whoever remains standing in the East. Golden State will have had 9 days off, but that's still not enough to get Kevin Durant back on the court. KD likely to miss the beginning of the finals with that strained calf. See, do the Warriors need KD to win a title?
They're a better basketball team. They're more dangerous. They present more problems. There's numbers out there that say, man, they can win a series. All they got to win is 4 games. Knicks got a sample size, more than a sample size as far as playing without him. I know the Warriors would prefer to have him, but they have the luxury, greatest luxury in the history of sports, and that's Kevin Durant. They can win without him. I haven't seen an NBA team with their best player. It was different when Magic and Kareem. Magic was immersion, Kareem, and you're talking about 1 game.
Or Willis Reed, the famous Willis Reed game. He gave you 4 points, but was out after that. That was 1 game.
And we're talking about a series. And the way the basketball is being played in the East, because LeBron, man, didn't have a full deck. He did not have a full arsenal to go against Golden State. I believe both these teams in the East are a lot better than the teams they faced in the West, especially from a defensive standpoint, and will present some problems. But there's still no answer on either team with Giannis and Kawhi being top 5 players for KD. So, yes, they can win without him. That's how good this team would be, but I agree with Nick. You're talking about a luxury. That's who Kevin Durant is for Golden State.
Kevin Durant's been on the Warriors for 3 years. They needed him. They had to have him. They would have lost without him 1 series. The first NBA Finals, he was there against the defending champion Cavs. That was the best Cavs team. That was LeBron James still at the peak of his powers, Kyrie Irving playing the best basketball of his career up to that point, a healthy Kevin Love, and a Cavs team that was a top 10 all-time NBA offense. The difference in that series, because that Cavs team had figured out a way to slow down Steph and Clay. That Cavs team would have beaten the Warriors without Kevin Durant. Other than that, it's all been luxury. Even the 7-game series with Houston last year, we have seen against Houston, Golden State plays different with Kevin Durant, but not necessarily better. Houston has trouble with the original Warriors Splash Brothers. And so, do they need him to win the finals? No. Can they win without him? Yes. And anyone right now that will say, no, they are drawing dead. Now, against Milwaukee or Toronto without Kevin Durant, they're just saying that because they boxed themselves in. That nobody can have watched the last 5.5 games of them without him. The 35 games previously they played without him with Steph. Their 34-4 record overall, so I guess it would have been 33 games previously, and say, oh, they have to have him. They'd like to have him. What they can't have happen now without him is Draymond go down for a game. Steph, they can't suffer any more injuries.
What about the fact that Boogie might be coming back? Does that affect?
I believe that they're better with Boogie. I believe it is a bonus because they're playing 10, 11 players now. Boogie Cousins, 10 or 15 minutes, yes. And I was told by someone close to the situation that Boogie Cousins, last weekend, Boogie Cousins would be back before Kevin Durant. So, yes, if they're going to run a rotation of 10 or 11 guys, I'm going to get Boogie Cousins some minutes.
And the KD, here's what happened with the KD injury. Because in the broadcast, Reggie, unfortunately, assigned him a torn Achilles the moment it happened. Reggie Miller's like, that's a popped Achilles, and we were all writing the KD moratorium. Once we found out it wasn't a popped Achilles, the general sentiment was, oh, he's fine. He'll be back in a week. He was never going to be back in a week.
No.
You could see when he walked off the court how significant the injury was. You could see the fact that he didn't return to the bench that game, how significant the injury was. When they ruled him out preemptively for games 3 and 4 against Portland, how significant the injury was. Now, if the NBA Finals goes 7, we're now talking Game 7 will be on Father's Day, I think June 16th. That's a ways away. I'm not saying I believe KD's done for the year, but I don't think anyone should have ever expected him to be back for Game 1 of the NBA Finals. And the Warriors have been preparing to not have him for at least the beginning of the NBA Finals. They know this as well as anybody.
And this is normal for the scope of recovery time for a calf strain at his severity, right?
Well, typically, because he's had a couple other calf strains, he came back earlier than this. So it's more severe. The team revealed that. Oh, it was more severe than we anticipated. Yeah. But when you think something and you think the worst, you think to pop the Achilles and been like, oh, I'm looking at the MRI, the Achilles is not torn.
Right.
That's great news. Well, in a certain respect, it is great news, but a strained calf late in May is not good. He has not returned to basketball activity. So for me, it's going to take some time, at least 5 to 7 days to return to basketball activity. And then after basketball activity, it's going to take 5 to 7 days for me. So the Kevin Durant that got injured, even if he comes back for 2 or 3 games, he will not be the same.
And real quick on this before we move on. I would not feel this way if it was Steph that was out. If it was Steph that went out against Houston and we were asking this question, are the Warriors, can they still win a championship? I don't think they would have swept Portland. So there's a lot of talk, who's better, Okay, you can define better in a vacuum of if they didn't both play for the same team. When you play for the same team, it's who's better and who's more important end up becoming the same thing. Right. If you're trying to win, the Warriors could not do what they just did to Portland without Steph Curry. We just saw them do it without Kevin Durant.
And then a quick note on Boogie Cousins. He did practice with the team. Steve Kerr is just worried about his stamina now, but it's great to see that his legs are holding up, whatever, and he's out there and he's actually playing with them. All right, let's take a break. Coming up, did Kawhi Leonard just make his best case for best player in the NBA? That's ahead on First Things First.